Welcome to a Flock of Donkies with your host, Adam Emmert.
Is he half like cowboy, half Japanese?
Nope.
Like, who is this guy?
And Jared Tim.
Could you imagine John Elway riding Thunder? I love Thunder.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Flock of Donkeys, your Seahawks and Broncos podcast with a West Coast bias. Coming at you today from a delightfully cool Missoula, Montana. I am your co-host, Adam Emmert. The man across the table from me is the guy that can rattle off the Broncos 53-man roster from memory, Jared Tim.
I could actually do that. I just did that like 5 minutes ago.
That was pretty impressive, actually. I couldn't believe that.
I got it down. I mean, you go over it a couple of times if you've been following, the whole preseason and training camp and shit. You just got it on memory at this point. You even knew all the fucking players who got cut.
Yep. Kind of have that on lockdown. I was impressed. I could maybe get you 48 of the 53 on the Hawks roster, but that's probably about it.
Man, we got 2 days until game time. I can't fucking wait.
Oh,
this is a revenge game too for us, man.
It's gonna be awesome. Today what we're gonna do, folks, we'll talk a little bit about the 53-man rosters and the cuts that were made this last week. Probably interject a little bit of things that happened within week 4 of the preseason at that point, just to kind of help justify.
Discuss it a little bit because week 4 of the preseason dictates a lot of who gets cut.
Yeah, that was kind of more what the end result is that 53-man roster. We're also going to introduce to you guys a new segment that we're going to do throughout the season here. And after our Seahawks beer review Broncos segment, we're going to also do a little NFL segment, probably a little bit shorter, but we're going to make picks every single week.
Yeah, we're going to make the picks, and there's going to be a lot at stake here. Our cover photo will be at stake here. Pride is at stake.
That's right. It's going to be Seahawks all year long because I'm going to kick your ass at
bullshit, dude. I'm fucking good at the picks.
You're not good at anything.
Good at the picks.
You don't got this. But
I don't make picks with my heart. I make them with my brain.
I make them with every part of my body, Jared, because I don't discriminate. So. Yeah,
we will be doing that. That should be fun though, because it's always good to talk about all the bullshit that's happening in the NFL, and it's entertaining. We don't follow our own teams without knowing what's going on in the rest of the NFL because they dictate how we do because we fucking play them.
Well, yeah, I mean you got to know those matchups when they come about.
We got to talk about them.
Also coming at you today with some new equipment.
We're sucking some microphone dick.
Yeah, you got to get right up on it.
It's like right in my mouth. I don't know if I want to like lick it or just stay back, or it scares me.
It's not an ice cream cone, Jared. Okay, but via our friend Brandon, thank you very much for allowing us to use this on this pod. We appreciate it quite a bit.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I mean, this audio is pretty incredible. It seems like compared to what we've been doing.
Should have been It should be markedly better. Yes.
it's gonna take a bit to get used to, man. It's like right in your mug, but
it is
fine. It'll be fine.
It is, but yeah, we should be just fine. Now, so last week, I think we started out with some Donkie Spit, if I'm not correct.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Okay, well, it was something. And so we're going to start out today with a little bit of chicken scratch.
So it's going to be lesser.
It's going to be awesomer, bigger, louder, faster, stronger. Okay?
Jesus
Don't forget about it. That was on your ticket to the preseason game. Don't forget that preseason game. It was important.
Whatever. I already fucking ditched the ticket.
Just because you couldn't redeem it for a free haircut at Great Clips because we scored 4 touchdowns or something like that. So, anyways, getting on to chicken scratch.
Still on that.
Yeah, just a gentle reminder. We're going to talk a little bit about the 53-man roster to start with here. So, Seahawks get down to the 53. A few surprises. Obviously, the biggest surprise coming out of that was the cut of Michael Robinson. Now, for me, I really didn't think this was the year that we were going to make that cut. I thought it would be next year as the Percy Harvin deal ballooned in that year. But no, they decided that they wanted to go younger right out of the gate.
Yeah, but you guys are kind of also doing the same thing we are, which is catering to these offenses where if you're going to use a fullback, you just bring a tight end back there. We just talked about this. You can use a tight end back there as a great blocker because a lot of these tight ends, that's their number one thing to do is block. And they can come out of the backfield, catch some passes. We even saw Aaron Hernandez. Sorry to bring up that name, but back in the playoffs when they played us, when we had Tim Tebow, we saw him in the backfield, and he got a lot of carries. So, I think with these tight ends, people are starting to do a lot more things, and I think that's kind of what led to our release of Jacob Hester and your guys' release of Mike Rob.
Yeah, the thing that bothers me about the Mike Rob release a little bit is
the Rob report.
Well, yeah, the real Rob report, man. I would know a ton of things about this team if it weren't for the real Rob report. So that's something that's going to bum me out big time. But also,
there's no more reality TV. Well, no more Seahawks reality TV.
Yeah, it was almost like Hard Knocks. It was pretty great. You kind of had an inside look a little bit. But with that said, the leadership is really what I'm worried about with him leaving. He was one of the actual leaders of this team, and one of the guys that really got everybody pumped up. Him and Marshawn were really tight.
Yeah, I think you can make up for that when you have strong team leaders in general. Like when you got Russell Wilson as your overall team leader, I think you can afford to lose some of these, 2A leaders.
Right.
Kind of down the list. It's
Right.
like losing a special teams leader at this point. I don't think it's too much of a big deal as far as leadership in the locker room. I think you guys be all right. They're grown men. Fucking deal with it.
I think they'll get over it.
Business.
That's exactly it.
They'll have an easier time getting over it, I think, than you will.
I think so, actually. I honestly
He
do.
was a fan favorite. I mean, that's a bummer to see him
Yeah.
go. I actually liked watching him play, too.
Me too.
But, see ya.
Yeah.
Happy
Happy trails. But, this is a guy that could come back Vontae Leach style, too, like from this last year, where the Ravens cut Vontae Leach, found out that there wasn't anything out there as far as the market goes for fullbacks, and came back on a lesser deal. So that's always a possibility.
Well, and they've been losing a bunch of their tight ends, too, which they cannot rotate to the backfield. So getting Vontae Leach back, I think, was almost a must-do at that point.
Sure. So with the running backs, what we ended up with was obviously Marshawn, Robert Turbin, Kristen Michaels, Spencer Ware, and Derek Coleman. And I would have rather kept Mike Robb over Spencer Ware, see if you could have stashed him on the practice squad, but whatever, that's fine. But I am really excited that Derek Coleman made the roster.
You got Derek Coleman. We talked about him, I think, what was last podcast, right? Man, he was just impressive. So
he has been all preseason.
I don't think as far as athletically, you're gonna go down any slots because of him.
Right.
But when if Russell's trying to call an audible at the line, he just he's not gonna hear that shit.
No,
Can't fucking hear him.
It doesn't matter because he's smart enough to understand what the hell's going on. No excuses, he says. So he's got it figured out. They have a system.
Or like sign languages.
He does it in like those dull those dull Helen Keller tones. Like, yeah. Is it
To be perfectly honest, I think it's incredibly impressive that he can do this.
Oh, without question, he's inspirational. I think he's an
awesome, unbelievable,
awesome guy. Because I think he's an awesome guy. I'm going to give him a little bit of a hard time.
Well, yeah, you should. I mean, but you just can't overlook how impressive it is in the game, the way it is, to not be able to hear something out there and to be able to perform like that. It was that guy blew my mind.
Yeah,
to be honest, when I watched him play,
that was good to see. Now, as far as the quarterbacks go, we ended up keeping Russell and Tavares, which
you kept Russell Wilson.
Yeah, believe it or
Why?
not. Yeah, well, I don't know. He was the only quarterback to throw picks during this preseason, so maybe cut him. He's a bum. Like, can't be having that. But this was not something that was surprising to me, obviously, or really anybody else. T-Jack has looked really impressive the entire preseason.
He made some really good throws, too. That
did.
Impressed me. So
And he made a run in the fourth preseason game, which I know you didn't see, of the Hawks, and he did this spin move that was just
he hit
sick.
the circle button?
Big time.
Wow.
Whoop! Just right around, man.
Good for him.
Yeah, and it was really good to see. So we released Brady Quinn. He's picked up by the dumpster fire that is the New York Jets. So we'll see what happens there. If he can't beat out a Geno Smith or a Mark Sanchez, that tells you everything you need to know.
But every one of the quarterbacks in the Jets, man, just stop. Look who you're playing for. Release yourself.
Oh, God. No kidding.
Just go.
Sanchez would do himself a favor if he just quit. Like, it would help him out quite a bit.
Maybe cut his hair so he doesn't have to use that Sasha Vujicic fucking headband.
The Dujicic headband? Yeah, Dujicic.
Because we're really good at pronouncing his name?
Whatever. Sasha Dujicic. I hated that guy.
Gone.
He's a freaking Laker.
Yeah, I know.
Anyways. Crossing NBA and the NFL. But with that said, and plus Sanchez has that ridiculous Fu Manchu thing going on right now. But I think he's still injured, so I don't know.
Sanchez.
Maybe Quinn has a shot there. I don't know. He's a nice guy. Maybe not.
I don't think he has a shot to start just because of what they have invested in Mark Sanchez and now a draft pick. I do think he'll play because of injuries and other kind of random shit. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So on to the receivers. Golden Tate, Sidney Rice, Doug Baldwin, Jermaine Kearse, Stephen Williams. Those are our guys that made it there. That makes perfect sense to me, actually.
Not a lot of surprises there, really.
Not a lot of surprises. Stephen Williams caught another big pass in the Week 4 game just to solidify his spot as Captain Deep Threat. And that's a good name, too, Captain Deep Threat.
We'll see how he goes against the number one corners. We'll see if he's as much of a Captain Deep Threat as he was in the preseason.
That was against the number one corners in this last Week 4 game. He started. So, but it was the Raiders.
Right, and it was not the Raiders starters.
Yeah, it was.
Whatever.
Yeah,
All right, congratulations on going deep against the Raiders. Awesome. Yippee! This guy, man, he all the way. All the way.
He did it more than against just the Raiders. So,
right.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Anyways, so... with that said, we go on to the tight ends. Tight ends.
That's where we're going.
Well, yeah. No, we have this new equipment, and I just realized that I forgot to press a button that Brandon usually does. And
What's the button?
Phantom. I don't know what that means.
That sounds cool.
It's supposed to help.
Should we do it?
Okay, I'm pressing the button, people, so hold on to your shorts.
Did it change?
Phantom on. Actually, I think it took the edge off of our voices at the top, so I think that's probably good. Phantom on. So,
I'm pro Phantom.
yeah. So, anyway.
Tight ends.
Onto the tight ends.
Luke Wilson
and Zach Miller. Only 2 tight ends that we keep at a position group that felt awful thin going through this preseason. A position group that had me freaking the fuck out.
Yeah. Is that a sign of what you guys are going to do? As
I
far
think
as
it's a
receivers, you're
sign.
going to spread them out?
I think it's a sign of Zach Miller being healthy. He played in the preseason game, so that was great. Was really excited to see that. Luke Wilson had a strong showing in that preseason game as well.
Yeah, he did. He got better actually as it went on.
Clearly he did. And so I'm really excited about that. As far as the 2 that we kept, the one guy that we did let go of that I am actually pretty bummed about is the beard, Sean McGrath. And he ended up in KC, of all places.
Oh, that's right.
After that's all said and
he
done.
actually impressed me with his blocking. I don't know why you guys really didn't keep him around. To only keep 2 tight ends is pretty iffy in this league right now, where you're having this kind of hybrid tight end figure. To only have 2, they play a lot more downs. There's a lot more injury concerns. I was surprised by this.
I think when you asked a little bit of if that's going to be a mark of your offense going into this season, I think it is, in the fact that we're probably going to run a lot of 1 tight end sets, not a lot of 2. We're going to end up in a lot of 3 receiver sets with the 1 tight end, or maybe even 4 wide.
And you guys actually still have a fullback, so
yeah, we do. We have
so
we
you
have
won't
2
be
of them
needing a
technically.
tight end for a fullback. So that's not too bad.
So that's not too bad. Cooper Helfett, he gets released. That does not shock me. He had like 3 drops in the Week 4 game. That probably cost him that last
Yeah, I
roster
might have
spot.
done it.
Darren Fells, name that Fells.
He ain't no Daniel.
He ain't no Daniel, and now he is. He has been released and probably playing basketball in Turkey again. So that's
Cool.
great for him. So with as far as the tight end group goes, I feel good about it overall. It'll be fine. I keep telling myself that it'll be fine. So moving on to the offensive line, we kept Russell Okung, McQuiston, Unger, Jared Sweezy, Giacomini, obviously. Carpenter, Lemuel Jean-Pierre.
Yeah.
That's why I just call him Len.
Yeah.
Mike Person.
You don't want to have to admit that he's got that really feminine French
The
name.
French name.
The Femi-French.
The Femi French name.
Ugh.
No. And then, but here's a solid name for you. Mike Person out of Montana State University.
Yeah.
Yes.
Montana State Bobcats. How does it feel to have a Bobcat on your team,
A little
Adam?
dirty. It's a little dirty as a graduate of the University of
Or
Montana,
proper.
the superior school here in the state.
Superior. That's about right.
Superior. It's like it's a good cereal. It's superior.
Nah.
No. Having a.
It's cool, man.
At least he's
cool.
he's a kid that went to a Montana school, so
Yep.
I can get behind that. The Brawl of the Wild goes out the wayside when it comes to pro teams at that point. If you're from
Yeah, it
Montana on
does.
one side or the other,
We're gonna root for you,
hoorah! So
Brock.
yeah. We also kept Michael Bowie and Alvin Bailey, the 2 young guys that they've been really high on, which is great. Obviously, we traded Moffitt throughout the season to you guys. We
Yep.
talked about that a little bit
We'll
on the
take
last
him.
pod. We
Second
also
string.
got rid of Ryan Seymour, Rashad Johnson, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. Maybe he ends up on practice squad. I didn't see one way or the other. He was a guy that they were really high on last offseason. So,
Okay.
I don't know. Young guy. We also released center Jared Smith. But the really...
What a awesome fucking name,
it was
dude.
It was something.
Wow.
But Jared, that was Jared with a J, not Jared with a G. Different
you
Jared.
know, lesser spelling, same cool pronunciation.
I don't know. I think it's a greater spelling. I like J over the G.
What a dick.
Yeah, every time you try to spell something with a G that sounds like a J, you always, like, when you say it out loud, you start with a J. Like Geronimo, you always go J-E-R. No, G-E-R.
We better get through this segment, man. I'm going to be hammered by the time the Broncos come up.
Well, yeah.
We didn't even mention what we were going to be reviewing.
I know that was a whiff by me.
Torpedo Extra IPA from Sierra Nevada.
7.2.
It's working.
Yeah, we'll
Right.
talk about that a little bit more. So
will.
back to the offensive line. One thing that was really encouraging was to see Carpenter play in this game. He actually got a lot of run. He looked fine.
Yeah. I know that's a guy that you've been talking about for weeks, just how you're worried, if he actually gets on the field. There he was.
Well, maybe 2 pods ago, I declared that he would never have a significant impact on the Seattle Seahawks themselves. That could still happen, but he's back.
we do need to go through all of our podcasts and kind of go over all these predictions and claims and stuff just to see how many we were right or wrong on, because God, nothing would make me happier than to bust your balls on shit like this.
Yeah, no kidding. We should maybe invent a new segment called douchebag wrong.
The Adam segment.
And go back. No, that'd be a mutual segment. Because it's not like it's not like you're 100%. You know, you're not keeping it 1,000 all the time. Okay,
No.
Jared? No,
We're pretty close.
no, you're not. So yeah, there's your offensive line. Really nothing that was uber shocking there. Just happy to see Carpenter back out there. As far as defensive line goes, one thing that was really encouraging is that defensive end Chris Clemens not put on the physically unable to perform list, the PUP list, not put on there. So that means that he
will be back this year.
Well, he would have had come back after week 6 if we had put him on PUP. But
Yeah.
that means that we're going to see him before
Within
week
the
6.
first couple of weeks, probably.
Exactly. So
Hopefully week 2, right?
That's
When you guys go to San Francisco.
right.
That
And
would be good.
that's the big target date there, I'm sure. So looking good as far as his health goes. That was a big indicator on that. We also keep O'Brien Schofield at D end, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill at DN. Hopefully he gets healthy soon.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle, 3rd-round pick, my little sweetheart out of this draft, Jordan Hill. And
he was impressive through the offseason.
was.
Man, when we watched him in a couple of preseason games, he was getting double teamed. And that's one of those positions that garners a lot of double teams just because of the talent in the NFL. And it kind of seemed to me that with the amount of double teams he was getting while still making plays, he's going to live up to some of that first-tier talent that has kind of engulfed the NFL as far as that position goes. So pretty promising. You were the one who actually brought the attention of him to me. So I watched him ever since you kind of pointed him out. Man, he's pretty impressive.
He's a monster.
Good call.
So it's going to be great there. We keep defensive tackle Tony McDaniel, which almost is a surprise to me because he only played in the one game. You know, was injured again for the week 4 game, or injured quotes. You know, so who knows? But
anyone named McDaniel is kind of hit or miss.
After having Hottie McDaniels as your coach in Denver, is that where that
God,
comes from?
our female friends loved him.
Yes, they did. But we keep Tony McDaniels. He really wreaked havoc in week 3 at the Packers game, so he probably played himself onto the roster at that point.
Yep.
We also keep undrafted free agent out of Idaho, the Idaho Vandal,
There you go.
Benson Mayowa. And I'm excited to see that. He absolutely earned a spot this year. Played out of his mind. I like him a lot. He's
Be
a
curious
real
to see
hustle
what
guy.
Mark Schlereth has to say about him. He's a former
Oh yeah,
Idaho Vandal.
Stink probably has a lot.
I
of good
think he's
stuff
got a lot
there.
to say about
That's
him.
interesting.
So that's cool.
And then obviously we keep Bruce Irvin.
Yeah.
Actually played a lot in this 4th preseason game at linebacker. Flashed.
You don't want to suspend him for 5 games. You're right.
No voluntary suspension.
And,
for the
we've
5th.
seen him make a couple of really outstanding plays, and I know outstanding is a weird word to use, and it's pretty typical, but there were some times where he got into the backfield on either a screenplay or some sort of sweep right or left, and
Yeah.
he just blew it apart. So
He ran down Terrell Pryor in this game, and Pryor was fast. I mean,
he's
don't
not
kid
a
yourself.
slow guy.
Yeah, and he ran him right down like it was nothing. Just like he's, just like he ran Cam Newton down last year in Carolina. So good to see Bruce out there.
Just like he sniffs that Adderall, just like it's nothing.
Like it's nothing. Goes right on in. We also acquire in a trade from the Jacksonville Jaguars. So finally, Seahawks fans, we acquired somebody from the Jacksonville Jaguars rather than them just picking off from our roster. DeAnthony Smith, defensive tackle. I know exactly jack and shit about DeAnthony Smith. So
I've never even heard this fucker's name, dude. I don't pay a lot of attention to what goes on down there in Jacksonville. We got Jack Del Rio with us, the only thing worth a shit from down there.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, hopefully Anthony Smith will also be worth a shit from Jacksonville.
I love it.
And it's an undisclosed draft pick that we traded for him. So hard telling, not knowing.
not knowing.
It can't be more than a 7th or a 6th. Like, who knows? And that's
Yeah.
maybe if he actually makes the roster after so many weeks. I don't know. It's all speculation.
It doesn't matter.
But we also terminate the contract of defensive tackle Clinton McDonald, which was a little surprising only because he has served as the backup behind Brandon Mebane for the last couple seasons and done an admirable job at it. You know, I don't know what his cap number was or anything along those lines, but that's one of those guys when you're looking to trim the fat on a roster.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, because I'm sure if you got down to the numbers part of things and the contracts and the negotiations and what you need to add and where you can literally trim the fat on
Sure.
a roster. I think you hit that on the head. That's exactly what you guys probably did if we were to look further into
Yeah, and that's no pun intended with Clinton McDonald's body type. So, but we did. We needed to trim the
it.
fat.
I
a
did
little.
say literally trim the fat, right?
Literally, yeah.
If you were to trim a running back, you'd be like, well, you get a
You can't trim any fat off Robert Turbin. I can tell you that right
get
now.
the meat out.
So we also waived defensive tackle Jay Howard, the pick out of Florida, the guy that Dan Quinn highly recommended to the Seahawks last year as he was drafted. Dan Quinn, now our defensive coordinator, as most of us know, he decided not worth it. See you laters. And
I kind of wonder what that was about.
well, honestly, I don't know if it was the week 4 game or the
I'd
week
rather
3.
you be honest than lie, for sure.
Well, okay. So would most of my
Give it to me
girlfriends.
straight.
So
Leaving that one alone.
I'm a pretty truthful guy.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah. Jesus.
Honestly. Now you're good, man. You're up front.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jay
Yeah.
Howard, he's gone, and I think he's gone because he kind of dogged it in. I don't know if it was the week 3 or the week 4 game. I remember watching a few plays, and he just stopped at a few plays. And
Play to the whistle.
you play to the whistle, or even a little after the whistle if your name's Breno Giacomini, and so that's what you
If
do.
you're
there.
Giacomini, you play 10 seconds after the whistle, and then you stop. He's got that internal clock that goes for 10 seconds. Maybe
Yeah.
it was 10 seconds last year. I think he's gotten it down to about 8.
I think he's got
You know,
to
he-
not know about 3.
He trimmed a little fat on that
He
timer,
did.
you know?
He did, yeah.
Couple seconds.
A couple seconds. We also release Silver.
Saliga.
Thank you, because you had more
Dude,
years to
I
learn
had to
that.
try and pronounce that fucker's name for like 3 years, dude.
Yeah, that was a lot of years to have to do that.
Congratulations on not having to do it this year.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so anyways, but we did do exactly what the Denver Broncos did with him for all those years. We brought him back on practice squad. That's where
Still
he lives.
eligible for
Hey,
it.
making a living. You can't fault the guy.
Nope.
White dude.
300 grand.
Yeah, that's good money.
Take it.
Fuck, I'd play practice squad.
Hell,
Yeah, you would for 300 grand.
if I was physically capable.
Oh, well, that was with vulgar conclusion. Yeah, absolutely. No, not with you. Not with
Yeah,
your
for the
present.
money, hell yeah.
I mean,
I'd
you're a
do that.
fit guy, but with your present body type, that ain't happening.
No.
No, in athletic ability. But defensive tackle Michael Brooks also gone. Defensive
You're not
tackle.
talking about the Beersby, are you?
Still.
Fuck.
Yeah, still current champion.
Okay.
Defensive tackle Dwayne Charrington, he's out of there. We all know about him, except we don't because nobody gave a shit. Defensive end Ty Powell out of the powerhouse that is Harding. He did not make the team,
Harding.
although played pretty well. That 7th round pick
Where's Harding from?
from Hardingville.
Cool.
Yeah, so yeah, right outside of Harding State. So it's a good place to be. As far as the linebackers go, we keep KJ Wright, obviously, Bobby Wagner, Malcolm Smith. They're listed as our starters. Mike Morgan is also going to be in there as an outside linebacker. We keep Heath Farwell, the special teams ace, as depth in that linebacking core, which a lot of people thought that he might be the one to go rather than Mike Robb as far as a veteran salary that's maybe making a little too much. But he's also a captain and a captain of the special teams. I like Heath Farwell.
And it's also a little bit of depth, too.
Yeah.
In Mike Robb, you don't need depth at fullback.
No.
You know, you need one. If you don't got him, you use the tight end. So it
Right.
makes sense.
Or another lineman or whatever.
Somebody.
So we also keep the human missile Alan Bradford, and also
Yeah, you guys will keep him as a developmental player for probably the next 3 seasons. His 3rd season, you're going to see where he's at, and that'll be his make it or break it type of situation.
I think he's the number 2 middle linebacker at this point, actually, on the
Good.
depth chart. Then we also keep head and shoulders 2, John Ludalele. So that was good to see.
Luda Harley?
Luda Harley. Yeah, no big crazy things there that really stood out, obviously. All good guys. I'm happy about all those guys that were
You
kept.
if there's one thing to say about your guys' roster is it's looking deep, it's looking fast, and it's fierce, man. You guys have
Yeah.
one of the deepest teams in the NFL. Looking at the entire roster,
Yeah.
especially with your receivers and your running backs. You know, your offensive line will be fine. If you guys limit the penalties, you guys will be really, really efficient. And so you guys definitely have one of the deepest teams in the NFL,
If we don't beat ourselves, we'll have an excellent chance of winning any single game.
except for the Super Bowl.
Especially the Super Bowl. But, going on to, see, I'm not cutting you right off on that. Yeah, cornerbacks. Obviously, we keep Brown and Sherman, Chancellor and Earl Thomas, the Legion of Boom, which I love. And we also keep, and this was one of those position groups that we looked a lot at throughout the preseason as to who is going to stay and who's going to go, because there seemed to be a glutton of players at this position, and that is we kept Walter Thurmond, which isn't surprising. He played pretty well throughout the preseason,
Yeah, he did.
minus that first game. That first game was a little rough, but he really stepped it up. Had a good kick return in this last game. Actually had a one-handed pick in the Week 4 preseason game that was just sick. And sick.
Yeah, sick. Like make Broncos fans want to vomit.
Sick, like just robbing candy from a Raiders baby. And it was
a Raiders baby. Could you picture one of those?
yeah, it has a shiv in one hand
disgusting
and like
sight, dude. It's like a skeleton painted on its face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Raider baby. But probably was born in a dumpster. And then we also keep Jeremy Lane, which makes me happy because he's one of those guys.
Man, I got that one just a little bit late, man. I'm sorry. That's fucking good. All right.
We keep Jeremy Lane, not born in a dumpster. He's actually a really fine person. Jeremy Lane plays really well on special teams. He might be the smallest guy on the team, but he's super fast and he's a hell of a tackler. Great special teams player. Happy to see that. We also keep
and special teams is a third of the game. You
Indeed
keep these guys
it is.
around.
Indeed it is. If you were to break down the math of the 3 phases of the game, 1/3 works out to special teams.
We're smart, man.
Yeah.
God.
I was told there'd be no math on
We
this
are
podcast.
underestimated as far as our intelligence goes.
Jared, we're misunderestimated. So we keep Byron Maxwell. That makes me happy. That's a talented player. That's a guy that would have ended up on, say, a 49ers roster or something along
He
those
would have,
lines.
and he's seen a lot of playing time actually in the last couple of years. Last year he played a decent amount too, with injuries, special teams, whatever. You want to see him around. You want him to kind of get familiar with the system. You want a lot of these guys to stay there for a couple of years and develop.
Yeah.
It's the reason you guys draft this way.
Yeah,
is to develop
absolutely.
These players. So
well,
he's one of them.
Yeah, and I'll kind of come back to that point a little bit when I talk about just the overall roster here in just a second. But we kept a lot more players on defense than offense.
Okay.
And I think that's a mark of how this team wants to play. But we'll talk a bit about more of that here just in a second. We also keep free safety, backup free safety, Chris Maragos, the fastest white guy in the NFL, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. It's hard to tell him, but he is fast. He might be He might be the fastest, or behind Earl, he might be the fastest DB on the screen. So, I'm glad that we kept him. He's a good guy. We also keep strong safety Jerron Johnson, who was undrafted last year, over Winston Guy, who we ended up letting go. That was surprising to me. We picked, I think, Winston Guy in the 6th round last year out of Kentucky. Might have been it was the 6th. And Jerron Johnson, undrafted, beating him out on this roster.
All right.
So
You like the undrafted guys coming in. We have a history. I think this is our 10th year straight getting an undrafted guy on our team. So you like those players. It's true what they say about those guys. They always have a chip on their shoulder, so they play really fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's good to have those guys around.
It's great to have those guys around. So very excited about that. Antoine Winfield would have been cut, or he was cut and then retired, depending on where you read it and how you read it.
I would imagine that was probably a consensual thing.
Yeah.
They came up to him. They were probably like, well,
yeah, Thurman
this is a
good.
pretty
Lane
deep team right now, and they're younger. What are you thinking? He's like, if I'm not going to make the squad, I'm just going to retire. Let's just mutually do this. Respectful end.
Yeah, Ron Parker, he gets let go, cornerback. We also let go of Deshaun Sheed. And then, like I said, Winston Guy, who ended up, believe it or not, in Jacksonville with Gus Bradley. So, good for him. Wish
Gus
Winston,
Bradley will take anything down there at this point just to compile a team,
Sure. Well, they need it, They
need
really,
everything.
They really need it. And then moving on to special teams, obviously John Ryan, because we cut Carson Wiggs last week. But John Ryan had a great game in this week, 4 preseason game, kind of putting to rest the concerns about his leg strength and his accuracy over 50 yards. He hits one from 22, 42, 56, 51, and 53. So he bangs through 3 from plus 50 yards in this game. Also hits the crossbar with that 62-yarder in the first preseason game. Hauschka's leg looks stronger this year to me, and that's good to see. You like those strong leg kickers, Jared.
I like the leg kickers, man, big time. I've always had a good kicker, though. We had Treadwell, Elam, Prater. Fuck, we don't worry about the kicking game, man.
Yeah, especially in that air. Jesus. We also keep...
dude, those fuckers hit him on the road, too.
Yeah. So, did I say John Ryan with that? It was Hauschka who's our kicker. Jesus.
I know what you meant. I wasn't going to correct you.
Well,
I didn't have the time.
I flip-flopped it. Punter John Ryan, who, he's a great punter, Canucker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, redheaded Canucker. So, I love ginger Canuckers. And then we also keep long slapper. long slapper.
Who's he slapping?
Well, I don't know. It's
Probably slap around the guy that's hanging fucking 50-yarders, right?
I don't know. He does it from the long slapper position. I'll tell you that much.
That's a hell of a position, man.
Yeah, Clint Gresham, and he restructured his contract to stay on the team, so that was really good. So, the one thing that really stood out to me about the roster overall is that we did keep more defensive player than offensive players. That tells you a little bit to the philosophy of this team and Coach Carroll. They're a defensive-minded team first, and he's been saying that from the word jump.
That's how you win championships.
We kept, 5 running backs. That's also a mark of we are a run-first team as well. And then with the release of Mike Robb in Winfield and all that, I think that also speaks to Pete Carroll's philosophy of playing young guys. It's something that they've talked about since he came from USC. He says it's something that he's learned why he was coaching at USC was not to keep those young guys off the field. Yeah,
and you keep the young guys around and hope that you can maintain their discipline the entire time. And if you're confident that you can do this with these young guys, you can keep these guys around.
Yeah.
If you're a Rex Ryan and you want a young team, good fucking luck.
Right.
But I think Pete Carroll can really keep these guys kind of under wraps. Make sure that they're doing their jobs.
I think so. You got Russell as a locker room leader at that point. You also have Chris Clemens as a locker room leader who's a pretty serious guy. So I feel pretty good about all that.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's your kind of recap of your Seattle Seahawks 2013 53-man roster. I hope you're excited because we're winning the Super Bowl this year. No, we are, Jared. I like that look on your face, but we are.
How are you going to comment?
That's happening.
No.
That's happening.
That ain't happening.
All right. So with that there, let's move on to a quick
preview.
With that there, let's move on quickly to a Week 1 preview because guess what's here, Jared?
The fucking regular season.
Exactly.
Week 1 of the regular season.
How excited are you for this?
God, I almost couldn't even spit that out. I had to use a curse word just to buy time to say it.
And that's always the right time to use a curse word. If you're trying to
filler.
Yeah.
It's really good for the filler words.
Don't eat a Twix and take a pause. Just throw out a fuck or two.
Just say fucking shit and
fucking shit, I don't know.
That's it.
Yeah. You just roll on. So Week 1, Seattle Seahawks at the Carolina Panthers. 10 a.m. start for the Seattle Seahawks. Not worried about it. We're going to win this game, and we're going to win it by 10.
So my question is, what do you guys fear the most? Because my opinion about Cam Newton is he had a slow start to his second season, then really picked it up. I thought he played all right. And I think Cam Newton's he's going to be okay. I don't know how well he stacks up against your guys' secondary. So that being said, and their running game and their philosophy of football and their defense, what scares you the most about
Absolutely nothing. And I don't, when we went over the schedule a few podcasts ago, I said that this game worried me a little bit. But after watching Cam Newton in a preseason game or two this year, he looked okay. But you know what he's never going to be? He's never going to be an elite level passer. And with that said, he can't beat our secondary, especially with those receivers. There's not one of those receivers that I fear in any way, shape, or form. So honestly, as far as their passing game, fine. You are able to protect Cam Newton and we don't get many sacks. Well, you're not going to complete many balls either. And even with, maybe we don't have Chris Clemens, and obviously we won't have Bruce. With the guys that we had the preseason, I feel comfortable with our pass rush enough to keep contained. With Bobby Wagner there, he ran Cam Newton down like he was standing still last year. Mm-hmm. I think we're going to limit the running game, especially because I think Jonathan Stewart is out. I'm not worried at all about their offense against our defense. I think we're going to have our way with them that way.
When I look at this matchup, the one thing that I don't even know if it's too much of a concern. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think you guys are going to win the game. Yeah. I don't think there's any reason you guys are going to lose this football game. But the areas I think you may struggle at times, maybe it's not much, maybe it's a considerable amount for a little bit, is the fact that you guys don't have Bruce Irvin in there to also chase Cam Newton down. Because one thing he also can do is run. So when that coverage is so tight, it's going to break down quick, and he's almost going to look to run after his first read. And so it's whether you can catch up to his running ability is kind of the one issue. Maybe it's not even an issue. And I guess the second thing would be is your guys' defensive tackles against the run, but Stewart is out. So those are a couple of things that I would look to for concern. I would imagine that when you guys go into this game, those are the two things that might worry you a little bit. You're not going to have trouble moving the ball in their defense, I don't think.
I think
their
that
defense
we're
has
going to
improved. They got some guys back from injury, but I don't think you guys are going to have too much of an issue. And maybe make a couple of defensive adjustments, see how Cam's playing in the first quarter, maybe a little through the second. And then I think by halftime is really, even if the score is closer to halftime, I think you guys really shut it down at halftime, and that's when you run away with it.
I think we'll run the ball just fine against Carolina. Where I do have a bit of concern is in the passing game and pass protection, because we looked a little rough, especially on the right side of the offensive line throughout the preseason as far as pass protection goes. But then again, we have the Houdini that is Russell Wilson.
And
back
thank
there.
God he can throw running to his left, as we saw a couple times.
He can throw running to his left. He can throw running to his right. He could jump in the air and like grow one of those like raccoon tails and Super Mario 3 and fly around.
Those ones that he would just flick with his wrist off the left-hand side, man, those were unbelievable. So I don't really think that might – it won't be too much of an issue. If he's got to beat a team on his feet, he's going to do it. If he's getting time, he's going to nickel and dime you too.
Yeah.
So I don't think their defense is going to pose much of a problem to you guys. You'll probably contain Cam Newton in that inside running game at least by the start of the second half.
Yeah.
You know, just like I said, even if the score's close to halftime, I don't think there's any reason you guys lose this game at all.
I don't either. So I feel very comfortable about this matchup. 10 a.m. start and all. I think that's a bunch of hogwash. I think they'll be just fine.
It's just one of those things.
Just one of those things.
I really thought about being a dick and picking this game as my upset pick. Just
out of dickdom. Yeah.
But I went with another one. You guys will see that later.
Yeah.
But this game doesn't scare me if I'm you guys, even with the long travel time.
Nice. Okay. Well, with that said there, folks, I think that's everything we want to talk about as far as the Hawks go in this episode. Remember, you can always interact with us on our Facebook page, A Flock of Donkies, DONKIES, as well as send us emails, folks, afodpodcast@gmail.com, or call in and leave a rant, 823-0307. If you don't, you're just kind of a doucher.
We'll read them. We'll listen to them.
Yeah.
Bring them in.
Yeah, absolutely. So do better there. Anyways, stay tuned. We're going to review Sierra Nevada's Torpedo
Extra IPA.
There it is.
It's working as well as we sound.
Yeah, sure is. All right. Stay tuned, folks. It's time for the beer review, where we review
the
most important liquid in the history of man, and that is beer.
Thank you, monks,
for
beer.
Monks. Now, I know a few of you might argue that wine is the most important liquid in the history of man. And
it's a fair argument, though.
Is it? I think
it's
wrong.
Booze.
Well, it's booze.
You know, I understand my preference is definitely beer, but it's still booze.
Yeah,
it's still a plus.
Yeah, but beer tastes better, and that makes it the most important.
That's true.
I'll
go beer over wine any day, you bet. But it's still booze.
Yeah, a little less of the hangover effect.
Let's be lenient.
But with the gloriousness that is beer, today we were gifted the Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA Ale.
Yes.
This is one of my more favorite beers, Jared, because you know that I lean towards these extra bittery IPAs.
That, and it's extra drunkening me.
Yes,
it
is described as a big American IPA.
A big one.
Rather than a small American IPA.
And it's 7.2%.
But when I hold it in my hand, Jared, it's still just 12 ounces, so I don't understand how it's any bigger.
It's more efficient, I think is what it is.
That it
At
is.
7.2%, it's just an efficient beer.
Putting you on your ass with the citrus and pine overtones, along with the whole cone hops that they put inside there.
You know, you've got a future in infomercials.
I do, yeah, absolutely. I'm the next fucking Billy Zane. I'll tell you what.
Don't be the next Billy Zane.
Whatever. He's a quadrillionaire. I would,
what was
all those? Well, yeah.
Billy Mays, not Billy Zane.
Oh yeah, he just had it. Well, he's probably worth a lot of money too, even though he's a shitty actor. But anyways, Torpedo. This is one of my more favorite beers. It's a great barbecue beer. Like if you're at a barbecue, you don't want to drink a ton of beers while you're there and become slosh, because then you just look like an alcoholic. If you drink like 3 torpedoes and are slosh, everybody just thinks you're normal.
Yeah, you drink 3 torpedoes, you get sloshed, and you're like, I think we should go get some more beer. Right. Because that's what usually happens. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, because it minimizes the amount of beers that you have to drink to get hammered. And that way your consumption, because if somebody's like, well, I've had 5 beers, and you'd be like, dude, I've only had 3, like you're kind of a lush, and you can look at them that way. But
when they're drinking maybe a Bud Light or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, congratulations on your 10 beers. I've had 4 and feel better than you.
Yeah.
And they were tastier.
Way tastier. Yeah.
I like this beer in the fall, too. I like a hoppy flavor. Now we're going to start getting into the Oktoberfest beers, which we'll definitely get into.
Yeah. Next pod for sure will be a Oktoberfesty fall beer.
And we've talked about some transitional beers And I think this one's a good transitional beer for any season. I like IPAs. IPAs are your favorite too, but man,
Yeah, and this is an extra IPA, so it is certainly extra hoppy. Some
a
say
little more than the others.
Yeah, some say you might be able to strip paint off a house with this stuff, but I like it because it's. I mean,
if that's what paint thinner tastes like, I depending on what's cheaper, I might start drinking that.
Get me a gallon.
Oh,
you wouldn't need that, but you could string it out over like an hour or two.
Yeah, this is not something you're gonna drink if you're gonna take in front of a lot of women.
Mm-hmm.
Women don't. I don't get me wrong. There's a lot of women that love
On the
microbrews
drinkability
and
scale?
IPAs. On the drinkability scale, I'd say it's lesser.
Yeah, as
For
far as
women.
yeah.
I love the beer personally, but if you
I'd
want
say
a
it's a
party
3.
beer, a 3
on the drinkability scale for the chicas,
out of
10.
3.
Yeah, for the average chica.
Yeah, that's probably I don't agree with it, but it's pretty accurate. I would go 4.
Okay.
4, maybe even a 5, because there are some.
I wouldn't go to
convince-
5, but I wouldn't argue a 4.
You wouldn't go halfway.
I-
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, it depends on where you're at, man.
Okay, maybe it's a 4 because you're
in
thinking 4 or
Billings,
5. I'm
I
thinking
would say
3,
a
4.
3. In Missoula, I'd say a 5.
Oh, now that's an excellent distinction. See,
Geographically.
I was thinking. I was thinking for all of America.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because all
3.75.
if you're from a square state and you're hearing this, I'm sorry, but those square staters, they were not going to like this beer because it's not from Anheuser-Busch and it doesn't taste like piss.
It's too much. It's got flavor.
Yeah, and alcohol.
Sorry.
Yeah,
And booze.
and a lot of it. So
Yeah.
that is the Torpedo Extra.
That is.
IPA.
It's a good beer. I'm just looking forward to getting into the fall beers, man. I can't fucking wait.
It's going to be awesome. So with that said here, let's get into some Donkie Spit next. Stay tuned, folks. And we're back, folks.
For the best part of the podcast.
It's exactly half of the podcast. Well, I guess not. Now that we're going to break it down into 4 segments, it's precisely 25% via segment percentage.
With value, it's like
95 minus.
99.25.
Minus. But nonetheless, it is Donkie Spit time.
That's right.
Jared, you guys are down to the 53. You completed your week 4 preseason. What stands out to you with all that finally came together?
Nothing. No, it's not. It's
As
not
expected.
Nothing. It's just,
As expected.
After that 4th preseason game, Brock Osweiler played well. I think Dysart's stats were a little padded because of that 65-yard screen to Lance Ball.
Because he's playing in dessert
who was
time?
released. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, I'm not going to take too much away from that 4th preseason game, other than the fact that Osweiler did play pretty well. But, he's everything that we're hoping he would be.
Did Osweiler start that game for you guys?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
And so he's everything we'd hoped he would be at this point, and he's continuing to progress. So that's very promising. And oddly enough, we're keeping 3 quarterbacks on the rosters. Dysart made the roster with his preseason performance, so that's good.
Now, see, that's something that actually really surprised me when you brought it up to me, is that you guys actually kept 3 quarterbacks. I didn't think that was going to be the case in any way, shape, or form, but this seems like a good move for you guys as I start to think about it a little bit.
Well, and I think it makes your practices more competitive. So rather than designating him to the practice squad, he's still going to practice every week. And if we would have let him go to waiver, somebody would have picked him up.
Sure.
He's shown some promise there.
So what, you going to run him a little scout team maybe? Is he pretty mobile?
He is mobile.
Okay.
He's a big guy. Actually, when he came out of the draft, when nobody was really talking about him, a couple of guys had compared him to Ben Roethlisberger. Not the same arm, but he makes good decisions and he moves around and he extends plays. So, and as a rookie, part of extending plays is just like, oh fuck, I can't find anybody open because shit's happening so quick. I'm gonna run. So there's a little of that, but they obviously saw something in him that they're gonna try and progress a little bit and see where he goes.
So with that said, why do you keep a guy like this on your roster? And I mean, it's got to be for some sort of value in the future, because
possible trade value,
right? I mean, that would make some sense to me
maybe
at
to
that
the
point.
Jets. I mean, why not? Maybe to the Bills. I don't
maybe
know.
to the Jaguars.
So yeah, it is trade value. There's a couple reasons for this. Is in the future, if you can hold on to a guy like this with the new rookie salary cap, essentially,
sure,
you can keep a guy like this on your roster. Say
3 years
Peyton
for
Manning's
next to
done
nothing.
after this year or the following year. That first year that Brock Osweiler takes over, you have a quality backup who knows the system.
Sure.
So
okay.
you're not hurting in any way there.
Okay.
And so I think that's kind of the main reason we did it, and that way we don't we don't have to find a practice squad quarterback. We can just kind of keep him around, even though he is taking up one of those 53 spots.
Right. So he's a talented guy that would have definitely been picked up off of waiver wires.
Waiver wires.
As that what Flood
Yeah.
would say. Waiver wires.
Waiver wires.
Waiver wires.
So we're gonna keep him around, and I think that's a good move.
I think so too, because you can build up some trade value with him, and I think that's a big fucking deal. I really do.
I guess
it's a Green Bay Packers model, from a few years ago. Think of how many draft picks that they got out of that.
Yeah, tons of them.
I think it's a smart move. I like it.
So maybe trade bait. Maybe we just keep him around to be a solid backup when Brock is ready to take over in his first year.
Sure.
Who knows? I think it could be either of those two.
Well, you said to me, yesterday that you think Peyton might play 3 to 4 rather than 2 to 3.
As much as he's progressed with his injury and his arm strength and his maintenance of the knowledge of the game of football,
sure,
it does really seem like Peyton could literally play for 4 seasons with the Denver Broncos. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he did. I've told you before that secretly I'm hoping, it's this year or next year just because I'm ready for Brock. I'm ready for a guy that we drafted.
Yeah.
But if he sits behind Peyton Manning for that many years, I think you could actually draw a solid comparison maybe to the Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre model, that whole McCarthy situation where you groom these guys for 3 to 4 years. They get a knowledge of the system, the game of football, the speed catches up to them, or they catch up to the speed, essentially.
The speed of football?
The speed of football. That's a fast speed, man.
It is.
It's
not quite the speed of light or the speed of sound.
Or the speed of college, but the speed of football.
The speed of football.
It's impressive.
That's a significant speed.
And so I think we keep him around, and I think maybe that's why we're keeping Zach Dysert around.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
A couple of other things that they kind of caught me off guard a little bit as far as what we did after the 4th preseason game leading up to our Thursday game against the Ravens was we released Jacob Hester, which
really another fullback cut.
But we're going to have him on special teams. We're going to have him carrying the ball. We could split him out wide, but we let him go. And a lot of this is because a few days ago, maybe even 4 or 5 at this point, John Fox said that we were going to use a lot of tight ends in the fullback situation. We are going to run a lot of You're going to use
a lot of tight ends.
We're going to use a lot of tight ends
when it's a fullback situation. Sounds about right.
I don't even know where to go with that. I don't even know.
You said it, so I'm just repeating it back to you.
But
just to let you know what you're saying.
But we were so high on him for so long. It's just getting worse.
I just blew you up on that.
Worse.
But yeah, you're gonna use the tight ends in the fullback situation.
Yeah, we were high on him for a lot of reasons. A lot of his versatility, and then we let him go. And when I thought about how we're going to keep 4 tight ends, then it didn't surprise me. So at first it surprised me, but then it didn't surprise me. It was like, all right, well, he's gone. Fine. But that means
you just
we're
got
keeping
in touch with
4
your cheek
tight
aside,
ends.
right?
I know. It was a problem, but then it wasn't a problem.
But it's still a problem.
But it's still a problem.
But I'm telling you, it's not a problem. You should just know it's a problem.
and it's not. With 4 tight ends, 3 of which can block really well, 4 of who's getting better. We'll talk about that later. Now it doesn't surprise me that we released him. Another guy that we released was Jeremy Beal. Not too much of a surprise. He was kind of on the outside looking in as far as talent-wise. He was a defensive end.
The illegitimate younger brother of Jennifer Beal?
Well, we got too much shit on our defensive ends. We got Robert Ayers. Sean Phillips is now listed as a backup defensive end, as long as a wing, as our strong side linebacker with Von Miller
or
being
a
out.
chicken wing.
Either way, all sorts of shit.
As a wing backer? Is that what you're going to say?
Wing linebacker.
Yeah, okay.
And on the other side is Derek Wolfe and Malik Jackson, who have both been very impressive. Derek Wolfe is a starter in any team in this league. He's going to be one of the better defensive ends.
Which one of the Jackson 5 was Malik?
None of them. He's still black. But Derek Wolfe is that guy that we rotate into the middle on 3rd down in passing situations.
Yeah.
So, there was just no room for him anyways. And we got rid of Lance Ball. Again, not a lot of room for him.
Lance Ball gone.
No, you
2
will
ball
not
sets.
see the scrotum backfield.
No scrotum formation?
So,
I don't know if you could hear the disappointment in my voice when I just asked that question.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to go right over it because I remember that conversation.
Scrotum formation.
Yeah. We just hang it out there. But, a couple of guys that we put on injured reserve, Quanterra Smith, which his knee, we drafted him as a pass rusher, and he has got a lot of speed, but he's coming off that ACL injury.
Sure.
And we just didn't feel like this offseason was enough for him. So we're going to give him this entire year to recover and then bring him back in the offseason, see what he does. Just give him a year to recover, let him develop, see what happens. But I'm still really high on this guy, and I'm glad we're giving him a break.
Hopefully he makes a Quintaris leap in healthiness.
A Quintaris leap.
Yeah.
Don't ever say that
It's
again.
like a quantum leap.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott Bakula called it.
I'm trying to go over everything you say right now. You realize how hard this is?
I'm kind of fucking with you in your segment today. I'm bringing it.
You are.
I'm bringing it.
It's never been this way.
I'm feeling it today, Jared. Today's been a good day for me. Yeah.
Well, then why don't we just jump to the next Q name on here and get it over with? Quentin Carter, injured reserve. Yeah, he had that microfracture surgery with, we've talked about it before, I think, on this podcast. It's a tough one. It's the same thing, trying to get everything to regenerate. So we're going to give him another year to get over it. Hopefully it pans out because he's got a lot of talent. He sees the game well.
Yeah, he needs to fly out to Switzerland and get some of that Regenocaine put in there by the witch doctor.
Maybe that's what he did. Hopefully he's talking to, what the fuck's his name? Greg Oden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be in conversation. Do this together.
He knows about this microfracture.
Do this
nonsense.
together.
Yeah.
Laurenti McCray, a guy that we were really high on. He was an undrafted rookie. We actually thought he was going to make the roster. Came up with an injury, high ankle sprain. He's going to be out like 6 to 8 weeks.
Holy balls.
I'm pretty sure that this is the guy.
You're pretty sure?
I'm pretty sure this is the guy.
Okay.
But Jack Del Rio was talking about a couple of these guys and basically their recovery time. Stuart Bradley's the same way. Once it takes 4 to 6 weeks to recover from that and let everything heal, then you have the one-arm player guy. That's what he said. He goes, I
wish everybody could have seen your hand motion with it. Just like
it was almost
cranking
like a club, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was almost like he put his arm into a chicken wing and then like made a cranking motion, like one-arm player. It's pretty good. Look like, yeah.
But that's what we're looking at. And Del Rio said you don't want a guy going out there with one arm. So Stuart Bradley.
No, you don't. You want your guys
McCray
to have both the arms when they go out there. Yeah.
When he was talking about this, he's like, well, there's the recovery time, then there's the game speed time, and then there's the aggression time, which when you're playing with an injury, it's tough to do.
Okay.
And so practice squad guys, we signed Jarrell Robinson. He showed a bunch of flashes this preseason as a receiver. So we brought him. Thank God he cleared waivers and we could bring him back. He was actually Brock Osweiler's teammate at Arizona State. So I would imagine by next year, he will probably end up taking Andre Caldwell's spot behind Demarius Thomas.
That doesn't surprise me. Actually, did Andre Caldwell?
Caldwell?
Yeah.
Not a Q word.
Not a Q word. I wanted to turn it into
he's
one.
on the roster. He's
Really?
listed behind Demarius Thomas, which
still
now that he's
surprises
had
me.
a couple of Peyton Manning years, he understands the offense. He's a speed guy. He's solid. He played really well.
So he
this
soaked up
preseason.
football knowledge through osmosis from Peyton Manning, like every other player.
I don't know
in
if
the
it
league.
was osmosis or bodily fluids, but it happened. So
yeah, mind transference.
Another guy we drafted, Vincent Painter.
Mm-hmm.
He was a guy who in Virginia, he went from the defensive line to the offensive line.
Yeah.
And we didn't think that the learning curve, just in one preseason was enough for him.
Sure.
And so we're giving him another one.
Yeah.
And so he's on our practice squad. We're going to keep him around, probably develop.
Nice. Okay. So, and that's a guy that I didn't follow a ton of as Vincent Painter. It's somebody that you had covered quite a bit.
I'm pretty high on him. He's one of those physical freaks who just athleticism-wise, if he's got the brain to match it, he can develop. And so hopefully he does.
So instead of bad freak, he's good freak.
Good freak.
Okay. All right. Just
and
checking.
Tavares King, another guy we drafted. We did,
the king of the Tavarises?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no. Definitely
No?
not the king of the Tavares.
No? T. Jack is the
Tavares
king?
Jackson's still up there.
Yeah.
No, because he's actually got game experience, and Tavares King will not have that this year.
How many people in this country do you think are named Tavares?
4?
That's probably a good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
I'm sure it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's about it. And so Tavares King was a really good receiver, though, all preseason. We just want to give him another year to develop. Another one of these guys who's probably going to work himself into the rotation
Okay.
next year.
All right.
Maybe next year.
You always wanted Tavares on the roster.
Yeah, but those are the notable guys that we released, put on injured reserve, or brought to the practice squad. That's
Okay.
basically what I want to talk about. Everybody else, it's just like it was either typical or nobody's heard of them, so it's boring talk.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because everybody can rattle off that 53-man roster off the top of their heads. They know the guys you left out.
but no, not everybody can do that. But there's a lot of dedicated Broncos fans out there who can do that.
You think?
And I
Holy
know.
cow, man. Broncos Nation is huge.
We are everywhere, even on the West Coast.
Yeah.
We're there.
Yeah.
We represent.
I mean, you are who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple notes. Derek Wolf will be ready for week 1,
Ooh.
which that wasn't very surprising.
Ooh.
Not surprising.
Listener noise.
'Cause he said the problems were gone, the pain was gone, the range of motion is there, so he'll be back. He'll be full strength by
Yeah.
week 1.
Okay.
Anquan Bolden. No, not Anquan Bolden.
No, because he's on a different team. He's on the 49ers, which
I wanted Anquan. Omar Bolden. He actually played at safety.
Name that Bolden.
This was something that surprised a few people, but he had been playing. He'd been taking reps in practice at safety for the last couple of weeks, and he's another one of these guys that we really want him on our special team. So we're just gonna find a spot for him.
Okay.
And right now he's actually listed as our third free safety. And
Really?
this is basically just so we can get him on the field at certain times.
Yeah.
He's a guy that we drafted last year in the mid rounds, so we're going to try and keep him around.
Okay.
And J.D. Walton is still on the PUP list. He'll probably be back hopefully in 6 weeks or so.
Okay.
Still looking kind of
When you
end
guys
of October.
you guys released Lil Ja,
because he sucked balls.
and because you didn't want to have to pronounce that name for the rest of the season.
No, it's just
Too many soft
just
continents.
a problem. You guys, you don't have to
Continents,
do Silver
consonants.
Saliga. Yeah. Torpedo Extra IPA.
Yeah, it'll get you. It'll get
So
you.
let's just go over the depth chart real quick. Not a lot of surprising here. I'm just
Yeah,
going to go
we'll
over
just
real
rattle.
quick.
Rattle.
So backing up the left tackle and the right tackle is Chris Clark, behind Ryan Clady and Orlando Franklin, respectively. Our left guard will be Zane Beatles, which Chris Cooper will be backing him up. He's limited in practice right now, but we feel solid. We got a couple guys, just especially John Moffitt, who can move around, who's backing up the right guard. So
Yeah, I just wanted
which
you to
is
talk about John.
Luis Vasquez. And then our backup center will be Steve Vallis behind Manny Ramirez. So our starting left tackle, Ryan Clady. Starting left guard, Zane Beatles. Starting center, Manny Ramirez. Starting right guard, Luis Vasquez, who we got from the Chargers. And starting right tackle, Orlando Franklin. None of these are a surprise.
Okay.
So, and we've been talking about Manny Ramirez. He's been taking first string snaps for weeks and weeks now. So,
Gotcha.
let's take a look at our quarterback: Peyton Manning, Brock, Zach Dysert. No surprises there. Our running back situation, since we did release Jacob Hester, who was listed as our number 5. Now we have Ronnie Hillman listed at number 1, who did get a couple carries week 4 preseason.
Did he fumble?
No.
Okay.
That's promising,
Yeah. Well, even a blind squirrel finds it out once in a while.
right?
Yeah.
So our number 2 guy is Monte Ball, and our number 3 guy is Noshawn Moreno. I have a feeling these 3 guys here, Hillman, Ball, and Moreno, will all be seeing a fair amount of their fair share amount of carries. I think it'll be pretty even across those 3 of them. I think we're going to rotate them in because Noshawn is still our best pass protector.
So running back by committee then.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to roll that. Yeah.
And-
So, I really like that running back by committee idea, because that way it does take the carries off of your number 1 back. It makes it a lot easier for you.
It does. And C.J. Anderson continues our streak of undrafted free agents making our roster 10 years straight now. He will be listed as our number 4. However, he will not be ready to go for another few weeks, maybe 4 to 5 at this point still.
What happened to him again?
He sprained his MCL.
Oh, bummer.
But he'll be back.
Okay.
And so our tight ends, as I predicted,
Ooh.
Julius Thomas, number 1. He's listed as our number 1 tight end right now. We got
Number
Joel.
1.
Number 1.
Number
That's
1.
who he is,
Hey,
man.
Jared, who were you talking about a few weeks ago that a guy?
Julius Thomas.
Yeah?
Number
like
1.
Orange Julius Thomas?
Orange Julius. The other Thomas.
The other Thomas.
And then we got Joel Dreesen listed as number 2, who, I think he'll be back for week 1. But at that point, don't you just play Virgil Green or Jacob Tammy, who's been getting reps? Virgil
I
Green's
would.
been getting reps all preseason. Jacob Tammy's been getting them for the last couple weeks. He saw some time last week. So the depth chart goes Julius Thomas, Joel Dreesen, Jacob Tammy, Virgil Green. As far as playing time goes, I'm going Thomas, Tammy, Green, Dreesen.
That's the exact order I'd put those in, actually.
Okay.
As you said it. No,
Yeah,
really.
that's how I would rate that.
I really like Jacob Tammy.
He doesn't
And
drop a pass, man.
No, he does not.
drop the ball.
No, unless you're Pro Football Focus and you say he dropped 1, but you could be wrong.
Yeah, you fucking dicks.
Yeah, you're
Pro
pro
Football Focus.
You know what you're not focused on? Pro football.
That is not your focus, assholes. So, and just quickly over the receivers, Demaryius Thomas, clearly, Eric Decker, and Wes Welker. Those are our 1, 2, and 3 guys.
Okay.
Andre Caldwell is likely the guy who's going to be behind Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker. And if Welker goes out, okay, so here's a scenario. If
Ooh,
Welker goes
okay.
out, we put Eric Decker in the slot, move Andre Caldwell to Eric Decker's number 2 receiver spot. Basically, that's how that works.
That makes some sense.
And so if Demaryius Thomas goes out, Andre Caldwell goes into his spot, Welker and Decker stay the same. So
Okay.
our basic 4 receiver rotation will be Thomas, Welker, Decker, Caldwell. With
you have
Trenton
some-
Holiday maybe getting in there a little bit.
Yeah, with his wee hands and like a carny. And basically, you look at that, you do have guys with flexibility.
Yeah.
like you just mentioned.
Like yoga.
Yeah, just like yoga. And, that does allow you to run a few different sets depending if one guy goes down or another. I like that because if you're not going to keep a ton of receivers, you want them to be able to play multiple positions.
Exactly. And we did go a little thinner at receiver than I thought we were going to. I actually thought Tavares King was a shoo-in for another spot here with Andre Caldwell, and I thought we were going to go one more thin at running back.
Well, look, if you have
Not
a
the
rash,
case.
if you have a rash of injuries at the receiver spot, hasn't it been proven that Peyton Manning just will conjure up a receiver out of nowhere
can plug
and
him
make
in.
them a NFL star? Pure Gus son, Austin Collie.
Yeah, I was going to say exact those two players. God damn you.
Yeah,
Just beat
no,
me
I had
to
to
it.
sneeze.
But then on our practice squad, we also got Jarrell Robinson and Tavares King.
Oh,
Not
okay.
too bad.
So you got guys.
That's why I said thank God we were able to bring these guys back because we are thin at receiver as far as who we kept for our 53-man roster.
But you're
Somebody
thick
goes
on
down.
practice squad.
Yeah, we're thick in the squad.
See, I want to be thick in my professional squad.
And so let's go over our defense real quick. Also, a strong safety. We got Duke Iannaccio. Of course, he's playing.
Yeah.
You cannot keep that guy off the field.
I love the Duke.
Me too.
And
He's awesome.
my part on the intro to this podcast will never change until Duke Iannaccio is no longer a starting member of the Denver Broncos.
He will be all season. He's
Half
gonna be
Bronco,
healthy.
half Japanese. Neither of that is true, but it's totally accurate.
He's awesome. Duke is awesome. But Mike Adams will be backing him up, actually. He's taking a back seat this year.
Wow.
Which I like the depth there. At free safety, Raheem Moore, who Champ Bailey believes is actually going to be in the Pro Bowl.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he predicted this one.
All right.
And aside from the one miscue he had last year, he actually had a really good season. Really, really good season. We've talked about that already.
That's true.
David Bruton, we just re-signed him again this offseason. He'll be number 2 at free safety.
Nice.
And Omar Bolden is now listed as our number 3 free safety, just to keep him on the team.
Number 3,
Yeah.
free safety.
And
That's
we kept
interesting.
Quentin Jammer
What?
as a corner. So Omar Bolden and Quentin Jammer completely flip-flopped. Because Jammer, I remember when I was telling you, I was like,
Yes.
man, he's been playing some pretty solid corner.
Yeah.
So they just flip-flopped those guys.
Just maybe recognize
keep
that
them both
all
on
that
the team.
experience, all of that time
Mhm.
at corner was actually more valuable than
Well,
trying to cover up his speed that has diminished somewhat by moving him to safety. So it made more
Exactly.
sense to put him at corner because
Mhm.
experience overtook.
And I
the
love
lack of speed.
experimenting there. I love moving guys around, seeing where they're going to fit better. And just like we said, if
there
these
anywhere
guys
you
have talent, if these guys have talent, we're going to find a spot for them on the field. And that's exactly
That's
what
true.
we've done with flip-flopping these guys in there. So let's go to left defensive end. Derek Wolf, Malik Jackson as our backup.
Derek Wolf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our nose tackle, we got Terrence Knighton. Sylvester Williams will be backing him up. Defensive tackle, Kevin Vickerson. Mitch Unryan will be behind him. Right defensive end, Robert Ayers with Sean Phillips as the backup there. What I like about our defensive line is how
it
heavy
beastly?
we are. I don't know what it is, but on average, I think we're around 315 pounds.
Dude, that's a beastly line.
These guys are
I mean,
huge,
really,
dude.
when you rattle off those names of succession, especially you Broncos fans out there, don't you just like drink that in and be like, ha, we're gonna fucking stone the line of scrimmage.
Well,
that is
Vickerson's
ours.
like 320 pounds. I think Terrence Knighton's 334.
Yeah, Mount Knighton.
Yeah, and you saw it all preseason long. Nobody was getting shit up the middle on us. They just weren't even budging the line of scrimmage.
They do well in prison.
They would do great. So, I mean, I feel
'Cause
really
nobody's getting
comfortable
shit
on
up
our
the middle.
defensive line just for how big these guys are. We're not giving up anything in the run, but they're also fast. Derek Wolf, as we've talked about before, in our nickel packages when we go to basically 3 down linemen, in a dime or in the nickel when you still have 4, but he moves inside as a pass rush kind of guy, and that's probably where we'll bring in Sylvester Williams on a defensive tackle pass rush kind of situation too.
Okay.
So a strong side linebacker, Nate Irving filling in for Von Miller. Our middle linebacker, we moved Wesley Woodyard to the middle linebacker, which we talked about last week, and Danny Trevathan, a guy that we want in on every single down, is now our wing linebacker starter. Yeah, get these out, man.
The wingbacker.
God,
Jared's
this
invented
kid
a new
tough,
position
dude.
on this podcast. It is the wingbacker.
The wingbacker.
Yeah, what it will do is it will lock down the chicken wing part of your game.
It's so in our nickel package, it'll be Wesley Woodyard and Danny Trevathan as our linebackers at that point.
Okay.
So our left corner, Champ is still listed as the starter, we don't even know if he's going to be back yet. So most likely it'll be Chris Harris, Dominic Rogers-Cromartie on the other side, and Tony Carter in the slot.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. That's all I really want to discuss there.
Okay.
As far as our
As the depth chart is concerned, the
Yeah.
53-man
I
roster.
tried to ramble it off as fast as I could. It's tough when you're going through this many players, and there really are a lot of things to talk about as far as this depth goes and stuff. But I don't want to bore anybody, and so there it is.
That's not true. You wouldn't do this podcast otherwise.
What a dick.
But, there it is, folks. Your 2013 Denver Broncos. Be excited, Broncos Nation, because
we got a deep team.
even as a Seahawks fan, I'm excited for your team. This is going to be a big year for you guys. And with that big year, there's always a first step. And the first step this year is opening night with a Joe Flacco.
A Joe
Flacco.
Who's got a fucking banner up on our goddamn stadium?
That's where I was going with that, because I was combining.
Even Peyton Manning and Joe Flacco both said it was weird.
Because it is weird. And so Thursday night football, Jared.
2 days.
With Joe Flacco on top of half of your building, you welcome the Baltimore Ravens.
And all over downtown. I can't wait for this fucking revenge game. It's been too long, man. This will be the third time we played these guys in 9 months. Everybody's been saying that this feels like a divisional game at this point because we know them so well. They know us. A couple of things that actually do concern me with this Ravens team is there's been no Super Bowl team that has actually had the turnover that these guys have had. And even with the guys that they've lost, your leaders, your Anquan Bolden, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Vonta Leach actually came back anyways. But you lose a lot of these guys. And one of the things that nobody was really talking about is how Ozzie Newsome does know how to build a franchise. He's done a really good job. He drafts well. So, yeah, you lose a lot of these guys. But how well have they drafted? Do they have people coming up that maybe they won't skip as much of a beat as everybody says they're going to? So a lot of these things I'm trying not to overlook these guys because any given Sunday, obviously,
especially early in the year.
Yeah, but Ozzie Newsome has built the team very well. So maybe it was easier than everybody thinks to let these leaders go, to let these veterans go, because they were getting old. Maybe it's that whole, we've been sitting on these guys for a couple of years who are ready to go now. We just got these veteran leaders in here that we're still going to play this year.
That's an interesting point. It's one of those things that if you were really high on that young talent, if you were really that high on it, thinking that these guys are going to be legitimate starters, you would have cut some of those veteran leaders a year ago, 2 years ago.
Not necessarily an Ed Reed or Ray Lewis, because these guys were still playing top-notch football.
Yeah,
you don't let a Ray Lewis go before last year. You don't let an Ed Reed go before last year, because these guys are still awesome.
I would have let Ed Reed go a year or two early, but as far as Ray Lewis goes, we've talked about this before.
You don't cut him last year.
There's no if it comes down to game time and they're on the injury report and they're talking about whether or not Ray Lewis was going to play, Ray Lewis wasn't coming back 70%.
No.
If Ray Lewis was going to play, Ray Lewis play. It's 100%. Ray Lewis play. Ray Lewis
don't play.
Don't play.
Yeah,
and
that's all it is.
That's all it is.
So I see your theory there.
Yeah.
As far as maybe you cut these veterans, but you don't cut some of these guys that they had because they were good for so long. And they came back and their defense didn't play too bad against us last year in the playoffs, and they played decently all year. So
they got healthy at the end of the year. Yeah. And played really well.
And so I think the Ravens are going to be, aside from their losses, they did gain some. They got Chris Canty, they got Elvis Dumerville, they got Michael Huff of the Raiders, who I will forever think is overrated. But
yes,
so they did add a couple pieces, but I don't think the ones they lost are going to be that detrimental to them because I think Ozzie Newsome builds a team better than that.
Well, and they lose Dennis Pitta.
Yeah.
They lose Anquan Bolden.
Mm-hmm.
They, I guess they brought Vonta Leach back, but obviously Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. Are those big names? Yeah,
those
kind
are
of
big names. They're big time names.
And when I look at this, you guys are catching them on week 1, which is obviously the earliest you can catch them. And when you're bringing a bunch of new players and a bunch of young players, and you're trying to bring that whole thing together, it's going to take a few weeks for you guys to gel. Like look at the Seahawks last year; it took a good 6-7 weeks to get all those young players to finally gel and start playing great football.
I'm definitely glad we're playing in week 1.
Yeah, so the advantage here is that A, you're the veteran team, and you've played together for a year under Peyton Manning ball. You guys are much more prepared going into this game just based on game experience in the Ravens, just there.
And especially just like you said, as far as game experience, how well is the Ravens defense going to be able to adjust to an up-tempo, high-altitude Peyton Manning offense in week 1 without this chemistry that they have not developed yet because they didn't play together last year?
And I think that's the big point there that you bring up is that it is in Denver where you opened up this little portion about week 1 with saying that you cannot wait for this revenge. Those were the words that you use, okay? This is something that every single Broncos fan feels. It's this vitriol towards the Ravens that you just can't wait to ooze out upon them.
We've been waiting for this
high.
since last fucking winter.
So if there was ever an event that had the electricity that the home crowd was going to bring it in a even
This
like
is
that,
gonna be it.
like that extra level, kind of like with Seahawks and Niners last year up in Seattle, where the crowd just brought it with that just a little bit extra level. This is the
be
one.
it. I can't see how we can lose this game just given the momentum that we should have going into it and just the chip on our shoulders. Elvis Doomerville's coming back. How much would we love Elvis Doomerville. I hope he gets applauded when he's announced, but
He should.
I want to beat him. I want to
you're
beat
gonna
every
beat him.
part of this Ravens team, and I don't see why we can't do that. I know I do think Flacco really turned the corner. He had a stellar postseason last year. I think he's played well in a lot of games. He is missing Anquan Bolden, though.
He's played
How big that'll be, I think it's pretty big as he's a possession receiver minus the tight ends this year. I think
Sure.
Flacco might struggle a little while.
Well, Joe Flacco, he's had a lot of really good postseasons, and he's had a lot of really shitty regular seasons. You know what kind of game this is, Jared?
A shitty regular season.
It's a
for him.
regular season game, and that means you get average Joe Flacco, unibrow and all.
Yep.
So
It's so that there are a couple of things that do worry me about this game, which is why I don't want to overlook it. Because a lot of people are like, well, you guys should blow them out. All the people they lost. That depends on how well they've structured their franchise.
Sure.
So and only time will tell that. By the end of the season, we'll know how good they've restructured their roster. Obviously, we're gonna have to wait until then.
I say Broncos by 13.
Broncos by 13. Okay. I don't really know how many it'll be, but I think it'll be more than that.
Okay. Okay.
I am worried about this, but just because we have so much hanging on this game from last year, there's such a stink in the air over this game. I don't think Peyton Manning is going to lose to this defense that's still trying to find out who they are after losing a Ray Lewis and an Ed Reed.
What happens if you lose this game?
I'm not going to talk about that because it's not even going to happen. Like, that doesn't even need to be discussed. It doesn't need to be discussed.
Okay.
If there was a very, very outside chance we may possibly lose this game,
Let's say
I'm just going to blame it on Von Miller. I mean, come on. That's the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we didn't have Von Miller.
Okay. Fair.
Fuck it.
All right.
But that's not going to happen, so I don't even have to worry about that.
Okay.
I honestly don't think we're going to lose this game.
Well,
There's no fucking way.
Obviously, I'm picking the Broncos in this game, but I was just saying, what if?
A thing that maybe worries me a little bit more is if Champ Bailey does play this game. Because we just watched this a couple weeks ago.
We did.
And in the first half, Champ Bailey was beat by Torrey Smith 4 times.
Easily.
In the first half. And he was beat by him once in the second half, and it was a big one. That's 5 times in one game. Those are big-time swings.
Well, Jared, you and I, guys that watch games on NFL Rewind in my tiny little house. And the Broncos coaching staff are guys that do this for a fucking living. And I guarantee you, they noticed that Champ Bailey got burned 4 times in that game by Torrey Smith. So
there'll be an adjustment there.
There's no way on God's green earth that Chris Harris or DRC is not on
DRC's on Torrey Smith for sure.
There you go.
For sure. And, I don't even know if Champ Bailey plays this game, but against speedsters, that might not be so bad just because, we've had the Champ conversation already.
Yeah,
we talked about it.
We have, and that was an honest conversation.
Yeah, and so losing Champ Bailey for this game, if DRC and Chris Harris are my 2 starting corners with Tony Carter in the slot, I don't feel bad about that. I don't feel like we're taking too much of a step back.
Not at
Maybe
all.
in the leadership, sure.
Sure, but he's still there for his leadership.
But he's still there.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. A couple of things from the playoff game that I watched last year is No Sean had a huge game against these guys. No Sean played really well until he went out with that injury.
Okay.
He absolutely destroyed these guys. We got a great push from our offensive line, so that's something I'm really looking forward to. Our defense played really well the whole game. We had a lot of weird shit that happened. The returns on both sides, I guess.
It was.
But our defense actually played really well the entire game, and so did Raheem Moore. Prater missed a field goal. Peyton Manning had a tip ball that turned into an interception. We had several offsides penalties, and I think that might have been just some young guys a little jittery in the playoffs. Penalties in general, we had a lot of them. We played undisciplined ball actually in that game, and I think if we would have had 3 to 4 less penalties, we would have won that game. If we would have had a less tip, there's a lot of reasons we should have won this game.
Look,
so there's a lot of weird shit that happened.
Yeah, I believe that you guys were the superior team on that day, and I believe you're the superier team now.
And we beat them in Baltimore last year also, and we
Right.
actually dominated them, so I think we are too.
Yeah, Ray Lewis just needed to ascend to heaven. Like that was pretty much it. The good Lord had granted him one more run to.
Well, you did say this before the playoffs last year. You're like, I don't know if God's going to let Ray Lewis lose a playoff game.
That's what I said.
Remember that clip where Ray Lewis was like, I touched him before Jacoby Ford ran that one back? He
Yeah.
goes, no, I touched him.
Yeah.
And there was video proof of Ray Lewis touching him saying you were going to score a touchdown, and he did that. It was fucking weird.
Yeah.
There were a couple of really bogus pass interference calls last year also.
And we've talked about that game a lot, and I think that when it's all said and done, you guys were the better team then, you're the better team now. It's a win.
And we also shut down Ray Rice. We should not run zone coverage against these guys. Flacco can pick that apart. And now we have the speedsters. We have the cover guys. We have the quick linebackers. There's no reason we should be running anything more than a cover 2 as far as our zone assignments go.
Sure.
I think we should be a man-to-man, a cover 2, maybe let our safeties roam a little bit. But there's no reason we should go to a zone because that's where Flacco really got us last year too.
When you have a big arm quarterback, because when a guy sits down in a zone and you can zip it in there, Flacco has arguably the strongest arm in the entire league.
He's got a cannon.
So that helps a lot in zone coverage because when a guy sits down and settles down in a zone,
you can pick those spots.
You can pick those spots because the quickness in which the ball gets there doesn't allow guys to react on it.
Right.
So I see you guys.
That's a good point.
I see you guys running a lot of man-to-man in this game.
Mm-hmm.
13 by at least 13.
I'm gonna go 17. I think we win this game.
That's
by 17.
fine. I wouldn't argue that.
I hope we win this game by more, just because, man, it means a lot to so many people. And
yeah,
I couldn't even watch this game until a couple of weeks ago. I could not rewatch this game because I was so fucking pissed about it. But another thing that I'm really looking forward to this game is John Fox is a very conservative play caller. That's no secret.
Right.
And last year, and you were up in arms over this.
This bothered me more than a lot
there
of
was
things
a
in that
couple
game.
of plays that maybe were questionable, but when you look at the game call, like the way the offensive game was called the entire time, we didn't take any shots downfield.
Not really.
None. I think that's going to change with Adam Gase as our coordinator. I think we're going to take some shots downfield because we just didn't do that.
In another year of Peyton to heal.
And
he
his
said,
arm strength is back.
Well, and it's I think it's even less arm strength and more with grip. I mean, you heard him say that his grip this year is so much better.
Yep.
And look at Kurt Warner there for a few years when he hurt his thumb and he ended up in New York and he struggled for a few years until he got that feeling back in his thumb. And then guess what? When his grip was back,
the
Arizona
super close to winning a Super Bowl against the Steelers.
The Arizona Cardinals went to a Super Bowl. Let that like roll over your brain.
Kurt Warner
for a second.
was a James Harrison return defensive touchdown away from another Super Bowl
That's
victory.
exactly right.
With Fitzgerald.
So with Peyton Manning's improved grip, I think that has more to do with his increased quote unquote arm strength than anything.
Yeah, and his throws to the right side of the field are a lot stronger now too.
Sure.
And, other than that, I look for those matchups, the Torrey Smith, Champ Bailey matchup, if that's going to occur, what happens there.
Yeah.
I want to see how good the Ravens are as far as building their franchise and how they can keep up with, say, a more polished team with more chemistry in the Denver Broncos at this point.
Sure.
And, that's basically all I wanted to review is last game was bogus. This game means a lot. All I got to ask Ravens fans is where do you want it? Where do you want the pain? Because it's coming.
They're going to get the pain,
It's
Jared.
coming.
They're going to get the pain. They're going to get it in every way, shape, and form. Much
Talking like a convict right there.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
That's all I wanted to discuss as far as the Ravens. We'll look at the game. We'll see what happened.
Okay.
Yeah, Thursday night.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right, folks. So up next, the debut of the NFL Pick'em segment. Whereas we go over every single game in the NFL, we'll talk a little bit about all the teams in the big news in the NFL. And so you're going to get our official opinion on other things that matter.
You know what I would also suggest?
Sure.
Is if any of you guys listening right now, if you want to be in like this picks pool and compete with us, I would say send us a Facebook message or anything, an email, leave us on the phone number. If you guys want to do picks against us and we'll tally them up week by week by the end of the year, maybe we come up with a bet somebody wins. Maybe we come up with something that, maybe some sort of pool that somebody wins.
Okay.
Let's do this.
Okay,
Everybody
I like this.
Send us your picks. I want to know who you guys think is going to win. You can even write an explanation to the game. We'll discuss it.
So we did not talk about this before the pod, and this is an idea you just came up with, and I'm fully on board.
Fresh.
So what I want you people to do, if you want to be in on the picks pool, what we're going to do is we're going to start week 1. So get your picks in. You can either do that via Facebook, and that's a Flock of Donkies, DONKIES, the Canadian spelling on Facebook, or send us an email with your picks. AFOD podcast, AFOD podcast at gmail.com. Or if it's easier for you, you can just call in and leave a message, and I will transcript those down, or Google Voice will.
And we'll tally them.
And we'll tally them up. That is 406, because I don't think I gave the area code last time. Sorry, folks. 406-823-0033. 530307. Let us know. And let's say we're going to have to come up with something if one of the listeners beats us or if we beat one of the listeners, like maybe something along those lines.
Name your price.
Name your price. So get in here, folks. Give us ideas for the bet, and we'll go from there. Up next, the NFL pick segment.
All right.
Stay tuned. And we're back, folks, here with the super schlockered NFL segment because, honestly, if we do this...
Yeah, that's starting out well, man.
Yeah, I know. That proves my point. If we do this at the end of every podcast, we are going to be a schlockered by the time we get to
a little
these.
more impaired. We still know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we do. So,
Just be a little rougher.
with that said, those of you who did not listen to the Broncos segment, maybe skipped ahead to the NFL segment, Seahawks fans, good job. What we're going to do here, and we invited everybody to do, was to send in their week 1 picks in every week's picks, and we'll have a little contest between...
Just winners and losers.
Yep.
Go down the schedule, pick your winner and loser, and send it to us.
Not against the spread. Just actual winners and losers. Send it on in. We're going to have a little contest. We have not come up with either a punishment for Jared and I if we fall like way back in this or some sort of prize if you win. But we'll come up with something. We're welcome to subjections.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have we're going to have some people doing this too. And we're just going to keep tallies the entire year to see who wins it. And we don't know if we're just going to come up with a bet or maybe there's some sort of pool, or you win something or something. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of the season, but we're going to tally it all year long. It's just going to be fun to see who wins this picks every week.
Or if you just win bragging rights, which are the best kind of rights.
Yeah, there's a lot of pride at stake between him and I, actually. And 1 week of
between
lost
us and
picks.
you guys.
Yeah. Like 1 week of lost picks is just devastating.
Yeah, you can have
you
a bad
gotta
week.
hear about it for fucking days.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So you can send those in.
Be a part of this happiness.
Yeah, absolutely. And the misery. And so just find us on Facebook, A Flock of Donkies, DONKIES, or send us an email, afodpodcast@gmail.com, afodpodcast@gmail.com, or call in, and you can actually speak them into a message, and Google Voice will decode them for me. And but enunciate clearly, please, because I'm not going to go through and try to do it on my own.
Yeah.
Number for that is 406-823-0307.
Give us your picks. Let's play.
Get in this. So, speaking of which, we've already talked about Denver versus Baltimore first game.
Denver.
We both agree. Denver. We talked about that in the Denver segment.
So, next game is New England in Buffalo.
Now, that's kind of an easy pick.
It is. It's New England all the way.
It's New England all the way, mainly because we have no idea who's going to start at quarterback for the Buffalo Bills.
Maybe it's a Tool.
I think it's Jeff Toole. And by that, I mean, I don't know who that is.
He's an undrafted guy.
Yeah, I think he's out of Eastern Washington, actually.
One thing,
Washington State. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I want to talk about New England, though, is people are, I think, grossly underestimating their young defense. They've been drafting defense well the last couple of years. They've been much improved over the last 2 seasons. They're still young. I think they're going to be that much better. I think that's one thing people are overlooking in New England is that their defense will be better, so they're not going to be this highly explosive offensive team that lacks a defense. New Orleans Saints. I think they're going to be more well-rounded, so I think they're going to compete, even though Tom Brady lost all of his receivers, all of them.
Yeah. That's a lot of them.
I think they're still going to be really fucking competitive, and I think people are going to underrate the Patriots a little bit because they lost so many people and their defense isn't notable. But look out for these guys, man. I know they're good every year, but really, really look out for these guys.
Well, they're one of the big players in the AFC. But I think they beat
AFC.
Buffalo. No quarterback there in Buffalo yet. So, yeah, New England.
Okay.
Easy. What's the next game?
Cincinnati at Chicago.
Okay. This is one of those games where when you rattled it off to me, I had to sit and think about for a second because
Definitely.
you don't know exactly what the Chicago Bears are going to be coming into this game.
It's at Soldier Field.
Yeah, the new coach, Mark Trestman, the geekiest
the
coach.
Canuck, dude.
Yeah. Take off, Jose, Jay Cutler. And so to see
Jay Cutler.
Exactly. And Jay Cutler. It's hard telling not knowing with him every single week.
Oh, God.
It's hard to count the Chicago Bears out because I think they got rid of some weak links. Brian Urlacher when Russell Wilson ended his career.
That's true.
And I think Chicago is a little weakened, coming together under a new offensive system and a new head coach. I'm going to give it to the continuity of the Cincinnati Bengals, even though they are on the road. I pick the Cincinnati Bengals.
I also pick the Bengals just because I think this is the year they take over the AFC North. I think this is finally their year to take over the Ravens. Maybe not the Ravens, but the Steelers for sure.
Gotcha.
And, with the Chicago Bears, they have killed me in the past because I always count them out every fucking game. I'm like, Bears are losing. Maybe that's just my Cutler in me. I just fucking lose. Chicago lose bad.
I think that's just because you're anti-Leah, our friend, who is a gigantic
she's a huge
Bears fan.
So there's a lot of reasons I pick against the Bears.
Yeah.
But, the reason I pick Cincinnati mainly is because Brandon Marshall's got this hip problem.
That's right.
They're minus a leader on defense, and their defense I don't think is going to be as great because they're getting a little bit older. And also, how many offenses is Jay Cutler going to go through?
Until there's no more coaches who are going to take a chance on him.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, the NFL has proven that quarterbacks do not adjust well to having a lot of different offensive coordinators year after year after year. So I think that'll be set back, and it'll take some time to adjust. Even if this head coach is good, still Cincinnati.
Okay, cool. On to the next game. Minnesota at Detroit, Jared. What do you got here?
Oh, geez. Detroit. Christian Ponder. I know it's Adrian Peterson, but Christian Ponder.
Yeah, you came to a conclusion on this quickly. It took me a minute or two to kind of think on it.
And it's in Detroit. They're ready for a win.
Yeah, it's in
Despite
Detroit.
Schwartz.
And, boy, it's hard for me to bet on Christian Ponder, but it's also unbelievably hard for me to bet against Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
So, with those two things,
he's going to get 170 yards.
Easily. He's going for the record. He's going for the record this year. I believe he's totally motivated, and they still have that same offensive line. It was tough for me, but I ended up going with Detroit.
Also, with as much as Detroit passes, I think getting Reggie Bush as a guy coming out of the backfield as a receiver, I think it's a big-time asset. I think Reggie Bush is going to help this offense.
I agree. I concur.
Other than that, I don't have too much to say.
Yeah, because Christian Ponder cannot exploit the biggest weakness on the Detroit Lions, which is their secondary.
Yeah. I'm going to watch it just to watch Adrian Peterson.
Well, of course.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
So I'm going to watch it for that, but I think Detroit wins.
All right, so onto an AFC matchup.
Yeah.
Oakland versus Indianapolis in Indy.
Go ahead. What's your pick?
For me, this was pretty easy.
Yeah.
Indy, Andrew Luck over whatever quarterback they decide.
We don't even know who's going to start. Also, Oakland's in this rebuilding process. We talked about them weeks ago on a podcast about they're building a great franchise. I think they're on their way anyways, but they're still 2 to 3 years away from being solid. Yeah. And so their offensive line is in shambles. They're still the worst team in the AFC West. They lose to Indianapolis big time.
Big time in Indy. Okay, so this brings us to a game that we actually disagreed on here, Jared.
An interesting matchup. This is a really interesting game, man. Atlanta in New Orleans.
Indeed, in New Orleans.
We differ a lot more on New Orleans, our perception of New Orleans and who the Saints are.
I think it's more a difference in the amount of hatred that I have for the Atlanta Falcons. honestly, this is a bit of an emotion pick. It was an emotion pick with a bit with my predictions for the AFC South because I picked New Orleans to come out on top in this division.
This is an X's and O's pick for me, man. I'm going
hugs
with
and
Atlanta.
kisses.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a hugs and kisses pick.
God damn it! But it comes down to the fundamentals of the game. Which team is better all around? And I think Atlanta they're solid on defense. They're solid on offense. They're gonna have a good regular season because they win games and they don't lose games that they shouldn't typically. And so with New Orleans defense still in shambles, I mean, that's been the talk of the preseason is how poor their defense still is. You get Sean Payton back, you're going to score 31 points a game. The problem is you're going to give up 50.
Yeah, I think it's a lot like that Ashton Kutcher movie, The Butterfly Effect. I think it's a lot like that with the Sean Payton effect. Because when the New Orleans Saints, they get their head goddamn coach back, it is hard to play neutered without your head coach for an entire year, especially a genius that works in such amazing tandem with Drew Brees. They're going to come back. They're going to dictate the game at the pace of their offense so that vulnerable New Orleans defense isn't going to make no never mind at the end of the game. On top of that, I think Atlanta's defense is still overrated. Plus, they have the corpse that is Steven Jackson toting the ball. I picked New Orleans in this game at home, emotional in the Super Bowl opening day.
Man, I can't see that, and I'll tell you why.
I know.
It's because I think Atlanta is going to put up 24 to 31 points in this game. But I also think New Orleans Saints is going to put up that much too. However, I think if those offenses are fairly matched, which I think they're going to be at this point because of the defensive battle here where Atlanta's defense is so much better. So you have offenses that could potentially cancel each other out. The weight scale on Atlanta's defense over New Orleans' defense is what does it for me. It's that bad. New Orleans' defense is that bad.
I think we value those two defenses differently. And I think I would put New Orleans' defense up from that bad to kind of bad. And I would put...
They didn't make anybody struggle last year.
Yeah, that was last year. And now they have Rex Ryan as their defensive coordinator. they're going to be all right.
But they didn't get any better in the offseason.
They're not going to get any worse, but they do bring back Sean Payton, And I look at Atlanta's defense.
Their
and
offensive guy.
That's a defense that looks like it's taken a step back to me this year. I don't know. We'll see. That's my upset special, though. New Orleans
can't
at
wait.
home over Atlanta.
All right, I can't wait to see that game.
Yeah.
That's
So next game here that we're going to talk about is the Revis Bowl. Tampa Bay versus the New York Jets. This seemed like an easy pick.
This was an easy pick.
Yeah.
I got Tampa Bay in this game just because. Is there a more troubled franchise in the NFL than the New York Jets, or a worse coach at this point?
No, the New York Jets are the Macaulay Culkin of the NFL.
Okay.
They are very, very troubled.
Oh, man.
And there is
Wow.
Yeah, it's
What can you
Dunskies.
even say about the Jets at this point?
They wear green and white uniforms, and they used to be good when Joe
Okay.
Namath was their quarterback.
And unfortunately, that's where Steve Atwater finished
And
his career.
right now, you've got this Broadway spectacle that is Rex Ryan running your show. So
That's terrible.
Tampa Bay over the Jets, easy. We both put that there.
I know Josh Freeman isn't great, and he'll fizzle out after week 6 again.
But he'll.
But he's going to win this game.
He's better than any of the train wrecks at quarterback for the New York Jets.
Yeah,
So that was
Brady
easy.
Quinn might be starting.
Hard telling, not knowing.
All right, next we got Tennessee in Pittsburgh. What do you got?
What do I got on this? This actually took me a little while to think about because
Not me.
the Pittsburgh Steelers, as we've discussed, is one of those older teams. It was the team that I picked to take last in the AFC North this year when we did our picks. I think that age in the defense finally catches up to them. Plus, they lose a few key players like James Harrison. As far as their offensive line goes, I still think they're a train wreck. They lose their first-round draft pick during camp this year, Le'Veon Bell. I have a hard time picking the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Tennessee Titans, mainly because the Tennessee Titans are one of those up-and-coming teams. You got Jake Locker there, new offensive system. They're running a little bit more pistol, a little bit more read option, and Locker's an athletic guy. CJ2K looks kind of energized. They get Kenny Britt back. Their defense is solid, yet I pick the Pittsburgh Steelers at home.
Well, I mean, just like you were saying, Tennessee, Jake Locker, he has a new offensive system that he's going to have to learn again.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks usually struggle at any age with a new offensive system right off the bat.
Right.
And Jake Locker, I wasn't sold on him coming out of college. I'm still not sold on him. Basically, what it comes down to me is Ben Roethlisberger does not lose to Jake Locker at home.
True.
Whatever you want to do, Ben's going to extend those plays. He's going to beat the Titans at home.
Yeah.
So that was just why it was easy for me.
Yeah, exactly. Next game was Seattle at Carolina.
Hawks, talked about this.
Yeah, Hawks destroy them by 10 is what my official.
Destroy by 10.
Yeah, it's going to feel like a dominant 10 points. So that brings us to our next game, KC versus the Jaguars.
Jaguars are one of the worst teams in the NFL. KC wins this game under Andy Reid.
I'd say they're the second worst team in the NFL, only above the New York Jets.
Yep.
KC, Alex Smith, upgrade. They bring in Sean McGrath, the tight end from the Seattle Seahawks. They're going to be unstoppable now.
No. They won't be unstoppable, but they'll fucking beat the Jaguars.
They're going to be the Jaguars.
I mean,
even
Blaine
on the road.
Gabbert's starting in Jacksonville again.
Yeah, well.
They're trying that again.
Good luck to that.
I bet Mark Sanchez and Blaine Gabbert are friends.
Well, they're on the same career trajectory.
Because you
more or
don't
less.
get a lot
Well,
of...
I guess Gabbert never had a high.
Well, most guys don't get a lot of opportunities in the NFL, but these are the clingers, man.
They are
Like,
clingers.
these guys have just clung to opportunities because their fucking ownership can't do better.
They're that girlfriend that you can't say, I don't love you enough to get them to finally freaking leave. Yeah.
God.
Yeah. They're clinger starters. So, KC over Jacksonville. We both agree there.
Yep.
Next game, Arizona at the St. Louis Rams.
We've discussed the St. Louis Rams and who they are and how good we kind of feel that they are. You know, the Broncos did kind of hand them their ass, but they're still a good team.
Yeah.
And I think their quality, they're better than Arizona. I think it'll be a closer game than most people think, but St. Louis they're not going to lose that game.
Divisional game right out of the gate. This is exciting to me because, one of these guys will be in last place in the NFC West at the end of this game. I truly believe it'll be the Arizona Cardinals, mainly because I've been saying this all offseason long. That Arizona Cardinals offensive line is absolutely abysmal. They lose their first-round draft pick in training camp to a broken leg. The guard that they picked up out of there, I can't remember the name of him for the life of me. I think it's Massey. Anyways, he's out skis. Carson Palmer.
Good between the 20s.
Good between the
With
20s.
Larry Fitzgerald. So
Average
that's why
between
I think
the
he still will be.
Average between the 20s when he's getting blitzed up the A-gap because his starting left guard is gone the entire game. I think that the St. Louis Rams have a dominant defensive line in comparison. Carson Palmer is going to be looking at the sky all day long. St. Louis big in this game.
I think the reason that I think it's going to be closer than people think is because I haven't seen St. Louis's defensive line dominate this preseason.
You watched them in one game against one of the more dominant offensive lines in football, the Broncos, and now they don't dominate.
No, they don't dominate.
Well,
because they were dominated. You can't dominate if you're getting dominated by a team.
I watched them in Week 17 run Russell Wilson all over the field and get 8 first-half sacks. So
yeah, but that was last year also, too. I just
Same guys
I don't
this
think,
year.
Yeah,
Same
I
defensive
know.
coordinator.
I know that, but I haven't seen it yet. And usually you'll see flashes in the preseason, and I just haven't seen it yet.
You're a
so
flash.
that's why I just don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think their defensive line is going to dominate that hard.
So we're basically arguing over point differential.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on.
Moving on. Green Bay at San Fran. Intriguing game.
It is.
What you got?
I think the same shit's going to happen as did last year, man. Green Bay's defense is no different, if not worse than they were. And San Francisco made them look pathetic in the playoffs, man. Just absolutely stupid. Aaron Rodgers had no time, no rhythm, no nothing because their defense could not keep San Francisco off the field. I think San Francisco does the same thing to Green Bay this game. I think it's going to be a little closer than it was, but I think San Francisco can end up winning this game by 14 points.
Yeah, you're right about Rodgers in that game. He had no time, no rhythm, no nothing.
He didn't play poorly. He just everybody was depleted after they just got it handed to him.
And I watched them against the Seahawks in preseason, and they didn't really seem to solve the QB run especially on a scrambling man coverage, like everybody's touting that they will.
I felt like you guys could have killed them in that game.
And
starters on starters.
Yeah, I believe so. And with that said, Colin Kaepernick's going to come out and have a big game, and it's at home in San Francisco in a year with huge expectations.
Yeah. And Kaepernick has thrown the ball pretty well this preseason. He's accurate. He's still running.
Yeah.
Just Green Bay got worse on defense minus Charles Woodson and his experience. And
Okay, but then you have Green Bay coming in with a rejuvenated running game with Eddie Lacy.
Who gained negative yards against you guys?
Well,
he does look good, though.
Yeah.
You've seen him look good in this preseason, so I think he's an upgrade. I think they got better at running back. But they still got Jermichael Finley dropping passes.
So maybe they can keep their defense off the field a little bit more. Aaron Rodgers is the number one quarterback in the league. It's hard to count him out. He's kind of a badass. They've got a healthy receiving core. Jermichael Finley actually caught a couple nice passes against the Seahawks in the preseason. Maybe he's turned the corner. Brian Bulaga's out, but that offensive line seemed to hold up pretty well in the preseason games as well.
We'll see what happens. Regular season
Vince Young can't even make this team. They're so dang good. I'm taking a change of heart here, Jared. I had initially said San Francisco, but I'm going the Green Bay Packers.
God, he talked himself into it.
On the road because I fucking hate San Fran that much. I like this Green Bay Packers franchise. Aaron Rodgers is the number one quarterback in the league. You bet against him. So that
I just did bet against. I'm not betting against Aaron Rodgers. I'm betting against his defense, man.
Yeah.
On the road.
Yeah.
If his defense can't handle it at home, they can't handle it on the road. They're in the bucket.
Okay. All right. What do we got up next?
We got the New York Giants at Cowboy Stadium.
Ooh, now this is interesting to me. What stands out to you here?
I had a tough time with this one, mainly because in the last 3 years, I never know what fucking Giants team is going to play week to week.
Yeah, especially season to season on top of that.
Oh, God.
So you got the double whammy here.
This could be another Super Bowl season. And what is Dallas going to do? I don't fucking know.
No, this
could end up being just a slobber knocker, maybe 17-14 game to me.
So maybe it's just a matter of the 8th and 9th best teams in football or in the NFC coming together and playing a game. Yeah. Kind of a toss-up,
I think it is. And I think actually with what's going on with these two teams in this offseason, losing guys, injuries, free agency, I think it's going to be a sloppy game.
Yeah, okay. Well, Eli Manning has a pretty good track record in Cowboy Stadium.
That's why I went with the Giants.
Yeah, and he did. But it is at home. It is at home. Home teams, you got to like them. That's, basically 3 points right there. I mean, not that we're picking on points, but that's, you kind of give that team that advantage if they're playing at home. I'm going.
Well, you do.
I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh.
At home. We'll see. We'll see.
That should be a good game.
Yeah.
Just a sloppy one.
Yeah.
Score-wise, will be good.
Exactly.
This next one's my upset pick of the week.
That is the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Washington Redskins. Intriguing game here with RG3 starting.
I think the offenses are going to run some similar stuff here. They're going to try and run this high-paced stuff, but I think Mike Vick's going to have a rejuvenated year running an offense that he actually knows how to fully function in. So I think they go into Washington and they just stun him because RG3, he hasn't had any reps in the preseason hardly. So he's going to come in there. Who knows what he's going to do at this point? He never really proved himself too much as a pocket passer to me last year, to where he's going to come in week 1 and just dominate this game as a pocket passer, because that's what he'll have to play as. So I don't think, even with that awesome running game that Washington has now, I think their defense, I think I'm mediocre on them at this point. And so I think Philadelphia just comes and they actually just kind of upset them. They're rejuvenated there. They got a new coach. I think Philly wins this game.
See, now, my opinion with you differs on this game, mainly because when you look at the beginning of the year, when you look at offenses versus defenses over the NFL, the first few weeks of the NFL season, the defenses really dominate because it takes longer for the offenses to gel, and generally defenses play a larger role in the games early in the year. And when I look at the difference between the Philadelphia Eagles defense and the Washington Redskins defense, I really believe that the Washington Redskins defense is more than 1 to 2 cut above the Philadelphia defense at this point. Not to say that Philly won't ever get there, but right now, that's just a reality. The first year under rebuilding under Chip Kelly. So, with that said, even if the offense do cancel out, that's advantage Washington on the defensive side of the ball. I think they have a better special teams, and they're at home. I choose the Washington Redskins.
I agree with everything you said, but I'm picking the Eagles.
Because
that's all the logic. That's all the logic. But I think Washington's offense is going to struggle with RG3 as a pocket, just a set pocket passer this time. And I just think it's an upset. I mean, Philly has no business winning that game.
Sure.
I don't think.
Okay.
But they're gonna.
Okay. Fair enough.
They will.
Okay. So that leaves us. This is the Monday night game, correct?
Yeah, 2 Monday night games. That one was 2. That was the first one.
Oh, right. Okay. Jesus. All right. So second Monday night game.
Fuck, dude.
Monday night dos. We got the Houston Texans at the San Diego Superchargers.
Kind of a no-brainer.
Who you got?
Houston.
Okay. Done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not even close. Phillip Rivers will have some nice numbers in between the 20s.
Sure.
Manti Te'o will lose his fake girlfriend halfway through the game and somehow leave the field.
I think Antonio Gates has a big game. I think the running game struggles. I think Phillip Rivers throws 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
I think the Houston Texans are one of the scariest teams in the AFC when healthy. They're only healthy in the first couple weeks of the year, every single year, and then they get injured. This is one of those games where they're actually healthy because it's week 1.
So they're going to dominate.
They're going to run roughshod over this on the road. Lock it up, folks. That'd be my Stone Cold Lead Pipe lock for this league.
That's it.
Yeah.
Those are our picks. Send us yours. We want to hear what you guys have to say about these games.
Okay, so this was kind of a big pod. So congratulations, folks, for your listening enjoyment. We appreciate you checking us out. Make sure to get with us with your picks. From that, there's only one other to say to Jared, whether it's in John Elway or John Schneider. In John's we trust.